Hello there, and welcome to the Meaningful Stitch. This is episode 16, and I am Amy Palco. I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, Scotland, and this is my digital home from home, a place where I get to share with you my knitting practice and my knitting projects. Now, if you've been here before, you'll know that I normally draw a card from one of my many oracle decks to start us off, and today's card comes from this deck, which is the Animal Spirit deck from The Wild Unknown by Kim Krans. And the card that I've chosen for us for today is this one, Dragonfly. So I'm just going to read you to the words from the guide. It says, Dragonfly, master of light, illusion and the mind. The dragonfly is an ancient and ethereal creature that awakens a sense of wonder in all. The dragonfly is a symbol of the mind, as it is always moving, shifting, shimmering and changing. When the dragonfly card appears, it's worth considering the quality of your mind and perception. Are they restless or still, dreamlike or crystal clear? The situation at hand may be different than it appears at first glance. The dragonfly reminds us to calm the mind so the light of wisdom can shine through. Isn't that beautiful? What a lovely card. I love this deck. It has so many beautiful images in it. And I think the dragonfly, well, it's a particularly poignant symbol for me. We're just coming up for the 6-month anniversary of having lost my grandfather on the 1st of January. So we're just coming up to 1st of June. So, and we had a beautiful track called Dragonflies, sung by Eddie Reader, played at his funeral. And it really speaks about the impermanence of life and the fleeting nature of it. And that, we're here for such short times. So, we really need to lean into what life has available for us and to show up for it as fully as we're able to. And I'm really struck by that today in particular because a couple of people in our community have lost loved ones. So I'm just wanting to send my condolences to Andrea from Fruity Knitting for the loss of Andrew, and also Kaz from the Wee So and So podcast who has lost her David. So just sending them lots and lots of love, and just wanting to say that I'm holding them in my heart and thinking of them. So yeah. Okay, so we have lots and lots of knitting, and I'm surrounded by yarn here, so I'm just going to get stuck in. Well, first of all, I'll begin by telling you what it is that I'm wearing. So I'll just stand up so you can see it a little better. But this is my Whitehorse by Caitlin Hunter, and I have knitted it in Creative Linen by Rowan, and it's a lovely soft red shade. All these bubbles. Now, this might look familiar to you because I have worn another version of this, of mine, which was knitted in Fonte Bohème, which was a cotton linen mix, and this is also a cotton linen mix, but that one was in a lovely almond green colour. So, yes, I did say that at some point I would show you my other version, so this is it. It's a top-down lace yoke with these beautiful bobbles. It's a nice light sweater for me to wear just because the weather has I think it started to warm up a little bit at last. It's taken a long time. Our May has been really pretty chilly and wet and quite unpleasant, so I'm hoping for a sunnier June and maybe get out some of my summer knitting. But I will share more about my summer knitting plans later because I want to share with you some of the things that I have finished. Now, you might remember that I was knitting the Astrid by Junko Okamoto when I last recorded, which was a wee while ago now. It was about a month ago. So, like I said, I do have a lot of knitting to show you. I get through quite a lot in a month. But this is the Astrid. So, I think I had knitted the body and I had knitted one of the sleeves, but I had knitted the sleeve as the pattern had said, which meant that it had a really pretty broad end to it here and quite a short cuff. But instead I ripped that back and I decreased my stitches a bit more and did a longer rib cuff. just to really give me the length. So I will show you what it looks like on. Do a quick change. Here we go. So it's a lovely, lovely jumper. I'm really pleased with it. Here we go. A quick change. So I've washed and blocked it. It is sitting so much better on my slopey shoulders. And I'll stand up to show you it. So this is it. As you can see, the sleeve fits me so much better. I really like how I've just kind of cinched it in here and lengthened the cuff, because now it comes right down to my hand, and that really makes all the difference. I love the cable pattern, and this was my first time knitting cables without a cable needle, which was a new skill to me, and one that I'm really very pleased with now, because I have some more cable knitting plans, so that will speed things up significantly. And then yes, the body, all of this wonderful colour work, which I so enjoy doing. It's funny, I don't think of myself as a cable knitter, and I don't think of myself as a colourwork knitter. More of a lace knitter or a brioche knitter or a shawl knitter, but it's funny how we kind of create these, I suppose, these definitions for ourselves, and actually perhaps they don't fit all that terribly well. So because really it cuts us off from experimenting and trying new and different types of knitting to us. So this was really an opportunity for me to do an all over colour work jumper. I have done one, I think, before in the past, but this was a lot more adventurous for me in the colour work area. I was very concerned about puckering, but or not getting my tension right, but actually I think I've done pretty well. The main colour is this beautiful, I'll hold this up so you can see. You can see the variation in the blend, sort of greenish bits and orangey bits. So that's from Jamieson and Smith, and it's in their jumper weight, and I bought a cone of that, so I still have quite a bit left of it. And then this bright pink here, and this kind of apricot sort of corally shade, and the forest green just at the very edges here. That's Rauma Finull PT2. And then we've got some amethyst, which is from Holst, and then we have this fantastic chartreuse, which is the colourway Tilia by Garthenor in their Preseli blend. So other than the Finull PT2, the other two were both leftovers, because sometimes these colour work projects don't actually use up a whole lot of yarn to have a really big effect, like the Tilia, for example. So yes, it was nice to be able to use up some of my leftovers. I was a little bit concerned about the shape of this jumper, I'm not going to lie, particularly when I was wearing it before blocking. I was quite worried about the rolled hem. I'll stand up again so you can see it. So this is the rolled hem. I'm holding it up a little bit higher so you can see it. And I was concerned that it was causing the jumper to kick out and kind of create like an A-line shape. But actually, now that it's finished and now that it's been washed and blocked, it is lying so much better. I'm also really pleased with the way that the neck is sitting on me, and I don't know whether it's because I have these slopey shoulders. maybe it's a good design for that, but I don't know. But certainly I think I've seen some photographs of other people having knitted the Astrid, and the neck seems to sit pretty high up on them, and for me it absolutely comes down and just rests on my breastbone, so it's actually a pretty comfortable fit. I've worn this quite a lot because, like I said, our May has really been pretty unpleasant, so it's really given me a lot of opportunities to wear a nice cozy jumper. I've been wearing it with my skinny jeans and my leggings, and just putting on like a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. It isn't, I wouldn't say it's itchy or scratchy or prickly at all, but it is they are rustic yarns, so they're not merino single soft or silk soft. It's a woolly it's a woolly wool. Oh, and I will just show you my floats as well. I know people always like to see the insides. So there's my floats. And I catch my floats pretty regularly, which is partially because I have been so concerned about not getting my tension correct and being worried that I would end up with puckering. So I really wanted to make sure that I didn't end up with that. And I also made sure that I wasn't catching my floats always in the same place, because I didn't want my floats to show through my main colour. So I think I've done quite a good job on it, actually. She says very modestly. I'm really pleased with it. I think it's a beautiful jumper. I love my colour combination. Quite a few people have been commenting on the colour combo, and I suppose it is quite unusual because, you know, I suppose this is quite a muted shade, and then I've paired it up with these quite bright pops of neon. So yes, I suppose it is quite an unusual colour combo, but one of the ways in which I like to explore colour is by bringing colours together which you might not necessarily automatically put together. And I like to bring those together, and sometimes I'll just have them, you know, still in the balls or in the skeins, and I'll put them somewhere I can see them. And then I'll go back and I'll visit them quite often, and I'll see, you know, whether my eye is drawn to them. I'll see whether I think those colours are working together or not, and really give myself an opportunity to try out those colours before even starting to knit with them. And that's certainly something that I did with this. I knew that I wanted to use these 3 balls of Rauma together, and I knew that that I had this cone, and then after I decided to, you know, put them together in a little cluster and put them on a table in my home so that I could see them. I liked them more and more, actually, as the days passed. And then when I decided that this was going to be the design that I worked on, this project that I worked on, I knew I was going to need another couple of colours, and that's when I went through my stash again and found the leftover Tilia, the Preseli from my Selbu cowl, and the Amethyst from my Slipstravaganza. So I added them to the little collection of colours that I had sitting, and let them sit there for a little while longer until I got used to them. And then I decided that, yep, that was going to work, and I went ahead. So I like to think a lot about my colours. I like to think a lot about colour in general, but I do find it a really lovely part of our creative process is exploring what kinds of colours we can use. And I think that we can find colour inspiration from lots and lots of places, you know, whether it is in other people's knitting projects and knitting patterns. You know, certainly I think we get a lot of ideas from that, but I think we can get a lot of ideas from fabrics and textiles in general. So you might see some patterns that will use a variety of different colours, and you want to maybe explore, you know, how 2 of those colours work together in a knitting project or in a shawl or something like that. I also love, there's a wonderful Instagram account. What's it called? I think it's called Colour Cinema. I will link to it in the description box below, which you'll find all the links to everything that I'm talking about. But it's great because it takes a scene from a movie and then it picks out all of the different colours from it to create a palette. And it really gives you an idea of how colours work together, and and sometimes it's quite surprising, you know, when you see some of these colours together. But I think, you know, regardless of whether you choose to work directly with those colours, I think drawing your attention to the way in which colour is used gives you a little bit more confidence in order to experiment with colour in your knitting or in your creativity, in your making. So yes, even just trying to draw a little bit more awareness to all of these different places where colour is used, we can begin to have a bit more fun with it and be a little bit more playful, because, you know, it's only knitting. And if we don't like it, we can always rip it back out and use the yarn for something else. So yes, there we go. this is the Astrid by Junko Okamoto, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it. And modified sleeves, and I'm really pleased with those two. So, however, it was a bit of a month for modified sleeves because I also modified the sleeves on another Junko project, and this is the Magnolia. As you can see here, I've knitted it in drops Nord, and really the design feature of this top is the split sleeve. So I will take off this jumper and put on this other jumper so that you can see the split sleeves. Now, I knitted this last June, I think, and yes, Junko in June, that's what we did. And I loved this knit. I thought it worked really, really well. However, there you go. However, I was not all that happy with my cuffs, which was a shame because that's really such a big feature of the knit. So like I said, you've got these fantastic split sleeves like this, and then you have it cinches in for this long deep rib cuff that's got a cable pattern. You see that runs down the length of it. Now, when I had finished this was very loose. It's supposed to have negative ease, which means it is supposed to sit and really cling to the body, but with positive ease it wasn't clinging to the body at all, and what was happening was my sleeve was slipping right down my hand, and then this was getting all a bit baggy and not very nice. It's supposed to be a bit more structured. It is knitted in an alpaca wool blend, and alpaca is pretty drapey, so I suppose it was always going to be a little droopy, but I went back and I ripped out the deep rib, and then I re-knitted it using 2.5mm DPNs, double pointed needles. So now it fits much, much better. I'm really pleased. And I'm really pleased because my whole idea of, you know, getting this finally sorted was that when I go get my vaccine, I can do a Dolly Parton. So I don't even have to take my top off or, you know, do anything. I can just get that, which is very handy because my appointment is tomorrow. So I will have my first vaccine tomorrow. So that's really exciting. Really pleased about that. So, however, that said, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be wearing this tomorrow because we're supposed to have 20-degree weather, which is warm for here. It's probably not warm for anywhere else particularly, but it's warm for here, so I probably won't be wearing an alpaca jumper, which is a bit of a shame, but I'll get over it. It's okay. So those are my two finished objects. But I have been doing quite a lot of work on some other projects which I would like to show to you. So the first of those is living in one of my cocoon tree bags. I love this one because it's got the most fabulous peacock lining, which, as you can see, is replicated with the colour work on the jumper that I've been working on. So this is my third pink velvet jumper. Although I'm calling it my blue velvet for obvious reasons. So this is a fantastic yarn. I just love it. Can you see it? It's a tweed. It's from Studio Donegal, and I got it from This Is Knit, which is a wool shop in Dublin, and I had it sent over during one of last year's I Knit 7 events. So it's knitted in this lamb's wool Donegal, and my colour work is knitted in Qing fibre, and the pattern actually calls for you to do your colour work in Suri alpaca, but I've done it using a double strand of mohair, and I think it's actually worked out really, really nicely. I will show you the mohair because it was last month's Qing fibre mohair as part of their subscription club. So I've got one more skein to arrive, but this was last month's. Isn't that beautiful? Really beautiful. So as you can see, I've got like a lot left, and I also have, oh yes, I've got lots and lots of this left too. So in fact, I've got another one of those. So I do have yarn left to work with to make something else to go with it, but actually I've not, as you can see, I've not done the sleeves yet, so that's what's still to go. But even after I've done the sleeves, I think I'm still going to have a lot left over. I was actually trying to decide whether to use a little bit of colour work at the bottom of the sleeve close to the cuff, and I've not quite made my mind up on that yet. So, but there we go, that's my pink velvet. It's a design by Andrea Mowry. As I said, this is my third. I chose it to knit it again because I really like the pattern, and actually as a design it sits very nicely on me. The size really fits me well. I love peacocks and I love feathers, so I really love the design on it, and I like how you can introduce this play not just with colour but also with texture. Look at the fuzzy mohair. Isn't that fabulous? So I should have this finished by next time, I'm pretty sure. But the whole idea of it was that it would go with my kilt that my daughter has made for me. So next time when I've finished it, I will show you it with the kilt, because I chose the colours specifically so that it would go with that. So I will share that next time. So there we go. That's the pink velvet, blue velvet. And the next thing that I've been working on is it's a shawl as part of my shawl cal. It's called All the Shawls cal. I would really recommend that you go and check it out. Check out the hashtag All the Shawls cal on Instagram, and also All the Shawls cal FO, which is for the finished objects where I'll be drawing prizes from. But you should go check those out because there's so much inspiration. And you should also go to Ravelry, if Ravelry is available to you, that is, because I have a Ravelry group for this podcast, The Meaningful Stitch, and we've got a thread there. It's a chatter thread, and there's a finished object thread as well. So if you're looking for some shawl inspiration, those are really good places to look. Well, last time I shared with you the 52 Weeks of Shawls book by Laine, and I've been so enjoying exploring that. There's just so many shawls that I want to knit, all the shawls essentially. And I had mentioned that Joanna Herriott has donated some prize patterns, and she has a pattern in 52 shawls called Stiperstones. I think that's how you pronounce it, I hope it is. So I cast that on. So this is my Stiperstone so far. It's such a fun project, and once you're into the way of it, you kind of know what's coming and what's happening next, and so you can really follow it through. And I think when it gets blocked out, it's going to be really beautiful. But you can see I've got 3 different colours of mohair. There's like a very soft green here, a darker olive green, and then we've got this beautiful, I think of it as duckling yellow. And this, my main colour is bleached white from Holst in their Supersoft. So that's what I'm working on just now. It's chevrons. As you can see, I'm using my markers. I'll give you a little bit of a tip actually for these markers, because at certain points you are increasing on either sides, and on other places you're decreasing. So I have 2 red markers for every decrease section, so that I always know when I'm approaching it what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think you know, use your markers wisely, and you make your knitting life a lot easier. So I'm about maybe halfway in the pattern. However, with each section of chevron added, you're adding an extra bit 32 stitches. So it's going to end up a lot longer, which is going to be a lot more knitting. So, but I'm really enjoying this, and it is very comforting knitting, I find, and it's a beautiful pattern, which makes the knitting go easy too, I find. The mohairs that I'm using, let me see if I can fish them out of my bag here. So this is the duckling yellow. It's not called duckling yellow, it's what I call it. And this is Isère silk mohair, and that's the same for my, oh dear, can't find it. Oh, there it is. For this beautiful olivey green. And then my other mohair, gosh, where has it gone? Oh, there it is. This one here. I got this one in my advent calendar from my mum last year, and it's from Ferme de France. And it's just, I really like that colour. I think it's super pretty. Actually, apparently it's the same colour as my hair. Apparently my hair is actually also very pale green. So there you go. That's another work in progress. And then I have one more work in progress to share with you, which is my half and half wrap. Now, I know there's a lot of people knitting half and half wraps, and it is basically just a lot of garter stitch. So they're not necessarily they don't necessarily make for a lot of things to say about them. That said, I so enjoy hearing people talking about their half and half wraps, particularly about the colours that they're choosing, or about the comfort that it's bringing them, or the sense of community actually that's been built around it, because this is a cal that's being run by Caddy Jack's Knits podcast, and lots of people are knitting it, and it's a really lovely thing to see, and to follow the hashtag on Instagram and see people exploring the pattern, the simplicity of the pattern, and the delight of the repetitive garter stitch, and the amount of comfort that is bringing, particularly through such uncertain times. So my first colour, as you know, was this fantastic bright flamingo. I love this. Isn't it fantastic? Well, I have finished my first half, and now I have started my second half. Oh dear, that's the wrong way around. That's the right side. Is it? Yes, that's the right side. So my second colour is turmeric yellow. I think that's what it's called. This is turmeric yellow, and so I've only done a little bit. You resolve all of your short row double stitches if you're doing German short rows, or wrap and turns if you're doing wrap and turns. And now I've started to do this yarn. This is Purl Soho Linen Quill, which is the yarn that the pattern is designed for. And you only get Purl Soho from Purl Soho. I don't think they have stockists anywhere else. So this is a beautiful blend of wool and alpaca and linen, I think. And it just feels so scrummy. You have these little flecks of the linen which kind of show up as white. I don't know if you can see that. And that's because plant fibres don't really pick up the dye in the same way that the animal fibres do. So they resist it, which means that you get these kind of flecks of white through that. Which then really kind of lends itself to making this really beautiful colour and beautiful texture. Isn't it gorgeous? So I have a long way to go. This is just starting this first half. I think I cast this on for the spring equinox, didn't I? So that was 20th of March. Well, we're almost at the 1st of June, so it is a lot of knitting, as you can see. It's ridiculous. But I do find that it's a project for me that I can pick up and put down. I can knit a jumper and then finish the jumper and then pick this back up again while I'm considering what I want to cast on next, or if I'm wanting to watch the television, or actually if we want to watch a movie and everybody else wants to lower the lights, then this is my project, because I don't really have to look at it while I'm knitting it, because it is just garter stitch. So I can't really do any colour work or cables or anything like that while the lights are dimmed, but I can work on my half and half. So there we go. I think we're watching a movie tonight, so I'll be working away on this then. So there you go. That's my half and half wrap. And again, you know, sometimes people ask me, you know, what colours do I think would go well with another colour, but I think when it comes to choosing colours, particularly for something like this, you are going to spend like a long time with each colour. So you have to make sure that it's a colour that you really want to work with, yeah? And so for me, that looks like engaging with my core desire, you know, like what's my soul really longing for? What colour does it just want to be drenched in? You know, what do I want to soak in and really spend a lot of time with? For me, this bright flamingo is this is my summer colour. And I knew that starting it on the spring equinox, I was looking forward to summer, particularly when we were so locked down for so long, that the promise of summer was something that, you know, was really kind of keeping me going. And I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as a summer person. Apparently I'm not a summer person or a colourwork person. However, I'm both, so there you go. But the promise of summer encapsulated in this particular colour for me was a real blessing over these past few months. Partially because, like I said, because of lockdown, and partially also because our weather has been so grim. So it's really brought a little bit of brightness and a bit of sunshine my way. And then following that through with some actual sunshine, this is almost like liquid honey to me. Isn't it gorgeous? So now I get to spend like the next few months as we move through summer, really kind of glorying in and celebrating this beautiful shade of gold. So I suppose this is like my golden flamingo shawl. But yes, so have a bit of a think of that. I know these are not colours that somebody would necessarily put together. And actually for me, that's okay. I'm exploring, I'm experimenting with colour, and actually I do wear these colours together in the summertime. I have a dress that's this colour, and I have a hipster shawl that's quite similar in shade to this, and I have dresses in this colour that I wear with a pair of shoes that's in this colour. So this is actually a colour pairing that I'm very fond of. But it really does give me an opportunity to kind of explore those two together in a much more tangible and tactile sense, and really explore this particular appeal to my sense of aesthetic. So there we go. This next half of the half and half wrap has begun. Gosh, well, that's a lot of knitting so far. Let me have a little bit of a look at my notes and have a slurp of my tea. So the next thing that I really wanted to touch on was some knitting that I've got my eye on. And as I said, you know, we're coming into summer now, so there is a little bit more of an eye to summer knitting, summer tops, some things that are not quite so heavy as these things. And so I think I had mentioned to you before that I was intending to do a rocket tee by Tanis Lavallee, and I'm quite excited about doing that one. I do still have my plans to do that, but in the meantime, oh dear, it's like we kind of get distracted, don't we, as knitters? Our eye gets caught by all the pretty things, and then that becomes what we want to cast on next. Well, I bought a cone because it was on sale. I'm a sucker for a sale. So I bought this cone, and it is Holst Coast, which is their wool cotton blend. And just like with the other yarn that I showed you from Purl Soho, the linen quill, the plant fibre has resisted the acid dye. And so you can see that we've got actually a red dye here, which is picked up on the wool, and then the cotton has resisted it, which has then lightened the yarn to this beautiful shade of pink, which is called Candy. Now you can see as well, it really is quite a thin yarn, a light yarn. So I am intending to hold this double and knit Sari Nordland's Celeste Tea, which is another yoke lace work top. I think it's really beautiful. There's lots of bubbles, so a little bit, I suppose, reminiscent in some ways of the Whitehorse that I had on just before, but it's quite different. It's quite a different lace work and different use of bubbles. So I'll put an image up of it now so you can see rather than me just talking about it. But my intention is to use this doubled up. However, I did calculate my meterage, because maybe you do this too, but when I see there's a sale on and that I can get it as a cone, I find that very exciting, because partially I don't have to cake it up. I don't have to wind it on my ball winder. I can just start knitting straight from the cone, which is great. So that's always a good thing. But also it means that I've got a lot of meterage to work with. Well, there's a lot of meterage, and then there's a lot of meterage. I think I've got over 3 kilometers of yarn on this cone. And when I figured that out, I was like, oh, for goodness sake, that's a huge amount. So yes, I will probably get a Celeste tea out of this, and I'll probably get some other things out of this too. I don't imagine that the Celeste tea will use up 3 kilometers worth of fingering weight yarn. So there we go. That's one of my projects. And I also had another project that I have planned, which for another summer tea, and it's in this, which is the new Laine magazine. I am quite fussy about buying magazines, knitting magazines, because so often I will only really see like one pattern that I like, and that's not really enough for me to be investing quite a lot of money into a magazine. However, there were quite a few beautiful patterns. For example, look at this Sea Mist shawl by George Cullen, which I think uses 2 skeins of fingering and 1 skein of mohair, and it's brioche and it's beautiful. So I love that for a start. And then let me see, this is the top that I am thinking that I would really like to knit, and this is Thea, and it's by Natalia Sinelshikova. Isn't that lovely? So this is a mohair slip stitch pattern, and I just love the way that it works and how it sits. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to use my Lalland, which I think I showed to you last time, and which I picked up from the Scottish Textiles showcase on St Mary's Street in Edinburgh. So this is my Lalland. Lalland is lovely. Look at that ply. It's really soft. I think it's 100%, yeah, 100% lamb's wool, 50 grams, 175 meters. So I think that's just delightful. And my plan is to pair it up with this skein of Shibui Silk Cloud. So that's going to be my combo. So this is a bit darker than this, which I hope shows yeah, that's a good representation there. So that's going to be my Thea tea. And to be honest, I need like 30 meters more for the size that I am, plus the positive ease the pattern recommends. So I'm going to have to knit the size smaller than that, so mine will have, it will still fit, absolutely, but it won't have the same amount of positive ease that the pattern states. So we'll need to see how that works. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it works well, because mohair is just awful to rip out. So I'm really hoping I'm not setting myself up to rip out some mohair. That would not be fun. So much knitting goodness. I also have my eye on another summer tea, which is called the Sea Glass Tea, and it's by Woolen Pine, and it uses up a lot of your leftovers, which is why I really had my eye on it, because when you knit a lot, which you might knit a lot as well, I knit a lot, you end up with a lot of leftovers. And I'm always looking for ideas for what to do with all of those leftovers. And yes, you could do a granny stripe blanket. I've tried granny stripe blankets and I got into it for about a week, and then that was about the limits of my granny stripe enthusiasm. And I've seen people do scrappy blankets and things, and I don't know, I really struggle to get my enthusiasm up for that. So the Sea Glass Tea looks like it does like a 1x1 colour to create a beautiful coloured texture. And so I'm really excited about exploring that and getting out all my leftovers and having a bit of a look to see what I have and what I think might work together. And yeah, so maybe even actually using my my cone of the bleached white in order to create a little bit more of consistency through the fabric, or maybe not. Haven't decided yet, but that's something I'm quite excited about exploring. And another really lovely pattern that's just come out is called the Colour Craze Shawl. No, sorry, the Colour Craze Cowl by Tammy Gore. And again, it looked like it would be another good project to use up some of my leftovers. Dinah shared it on the Knitting Place, and I really loved their version, so I bought myself the pattern, and so that's sitting to explore too. Although I'm aware it is really more summer tea time and not so much cosy cowl time, but that time will come soon, and in Scotland it could come next week for all we know. So yes, I'm excited about exploring how to use up some more of my leftovers. If you have ideas for how to use up leftovers in your knitting projects, then please do share your ideas. I'm always looking for projects for scraps or for mini skeins. It's like, I love mini skeins, but they always kind of sit there and not really knowing exactly what to do with them. So if you have some ideas, then I would love to hear about those, and you can leave your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, so then I've got a section here in my notes called New Things, because it has been like a month since I last spoke to you, so there's a lot of new things. The first thing is I bought myself some yarn from Isolde, because I heard last week that Isolde was closing, and actually this yarn arrived on the day that news came through, so I think that's very sad actually. We're losing that wool resource, which was always exceptionally good, but certainly because of Brexit and because of the pandemic, I think economic conditions have been pretty fraught for so many, and so it's perhaps not that surprising that we're seeing some of this coming through now in our community. But yes, Isolde is going to be stopping stocking material objects, or yarn, essentially yarn and books, and I think they're just going to be doing digital products from now on. But before that news came through, I had bought this in a sale there, which is this gorgeous, can you see, like a caramel colour, and it's Rauma lamel yarn, which is lamb's wool, not llama. And it's this gorgeous caramel shade. And I bought a sweater quantity. Now I am thinking that I might pick up some mohair from Drops Kid Silk, possibly in the curry colourway, to team up with this. And I really like the Sari Nordland's design, the Kutar jumper sweater, so I'm thinking that this yarn could possibly be for that. So I think it's such a pretty design and it looks super cozy, which again, it's like not really the kind of knitting that I'm going to be doing over the next few months, but certainly I think that would be a lovely project to start in the autumn. The next yarn that I purchased was from another Edinburgh yarn shop, which is Ginger Twist. And Ginger Twist Studios do their own yarn dyeing. And I bought this fantastic, isn't that fabulous? Ginger Twist Studio. So Jess and Kathleen are there, and Jess is the mastermind behind these gorgeous colorways. And this color here is called Melon Balls on Fire. But look how perfect is that? I shared this with you last time, which is Mother of Dragons, which is from Treliz. There's her, Mother of Dragons. And it's on her merino silk singles base, and my mum bought me 2 skeins of this, and now I've bought a skein of Melon Balls on Fire, which just happens to go incredibly well with that. And actually I have another skein that which I think is Malabrigo. Yeah, it's in the Archangel colourway, and it's in the Mora base, which is their pure silk, which I think would look really lovely with this too. Look at that. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with these, just that, so I've got 2 skeins of this, one of this and one of this, but they just all go so beautifully together that they feel like they have to be in something together. So I'm not quite sure what that's going to be yet, but I'm excited about that, and we'll need to wait and see. The next thing I want to show you is some yarn that I bought for me and my mum. My mum got in touch and said that she really loved this new pattern by Dawn Baker? If I've got that wrong, I will correct myself. But she has some wonderful patterns, shawl patterns, that are kind of can be described as assigned pooling. So when you get like a skein of yarn and it's got a patch of variegation in it, you can sometimes get pooling. When you start to knit that up as a jumper, for example, you might find you start to get like a large patch of one particular colour in a particular place in your garment or in your fabric in general. And there are lots of ways in which you can navigate that, particularly by alternating your skeins, for example. But this particular approach, assigned pooling, actually makes a feature of it. And it does this, she's done this in a number of different ways. So there are, gosh, I think maybe 4 designs that she has, and that use assigned pooling. And the one that my mum and I like is called Calico, although I do also quite like Float. So, so there we go. I'm going to show you the yarn that we have bought for this, which is from the Wool Kitchen. Now this is not the yarn that is specified in the pattern because that is Chasing Rabbits, but in the Europe and the UK, we've been unable to get a hold of that. So when my mum showed me the pattern and said that she wasn't able to get the yarn, I mentioned that actually I thought that yarn looked very similar to yarn that you can get from the Wool Kitchen, which is this. So this is my mum's. It's called Neon Camo, and it's a BFL bamboo blend. It's 400 meters, and it's got these fabulous patch of sort of confetti, and it's gorgeous green shade. And then this is mine, and this is called Ground Control. It's this gorgeous grey and this really bright coral. So I will unravel this so that you can see what I mean by this particular sort of style of dyeing. So you can see that you have like this bright pop of colour here. And this is just the same. This just has, for this section here, it's got the speckles. So it looks like when you knit up the fabric, every time you get to a bit of this bright coral, I'm going to do a particular stitch so that it becomes a feature. But it looks quite random and it looks quite irregular, a bit wabby-sabby. I really love it. I think it looks incredibly beautiful. So I'm excited to explore that. But first of all, I need to send my mum her yarn. So, and I wasn't doing that because I wanted to show it to you first. So, sorry mum, it's going to come to you now. So there we go. That's the Ground Control yarn. Isn't it gorgeous? And because of the way in which the colour's done, you end up with this really beautiful complexity in the colouring. So there we go. That's that. And then I got the most amazing package in the post. Like truly, like properly breathtakingly beautiful. I had been approached by a friend of mine called Ivana, and she has the Republic of Me podcast, and she said that she was spinning a skein of yarn and that she thought it would be for me because I kept coming to mind when she was spinning, and would I mind if she sent it to me? Well, of course, anybody says that and you're like, oh no, of course, absolutely, send it to me, that's amazing. I mean, it just feels so deeply touched and so moved that somebody would be thinking of me while they were doing their spinning or doing their knitting. It's an incredibly lovely thing. So yes, I got back in touch and I sent her my address, and then the most amazing package, like I said, turned up, because it wasn't just one skein, but it's 6 skeins. It's about 550 grams of the most amazing. Look at this. It's a merino, baby alpaca and BFL blend, I think, from what I can remember. And it's kind of like a worsted weight. I haven't decided yet what to do with it. I'm a big believer in waiting for the right project to come along, for the right yarn. I'm just going to hold it for a while. And I know that the right project is going to come along for this. I just have to wait and see what that's going to be. I have a couple of ideas, but nothing that's really kind of grabbing me and going, no, that's what you need to make with it. So and so I'm going to wait until that really grabs me and makes me know that it's going to be a pattern, a design that's going to do this gorgeous yarn justice. If you go to check out Ivana's channel on YouTube, and you absolutely should, you'll see that her most recent video is called Spring Vlog Part 1, and in that you can actually see her spinning up this yarn and talking a little bit about it. She is just such a beautiful soul, and her vlogs are just gorgeous. They really give you a sense of what life is like in her corner of the world, and she's so creative and her work is so inspiring. And she does beautiful spinning and knitting and painting, and you can see her working in her garden, or this time they went and visited some beautiful camels and you met a baby camel. The whole thing was just completely delightful. So I do recommend that you go and check her out, and yes, you can go see her spinning this absolutely fabulous yarn. And I'm going to keep my eye open for what I think the project for this is going to be, because except now that I've picked it up, I can't actually put it back down again. I'm just going to hold it on my knees. It's going to be on my lap while I talk for the rest of the podcast. So, what else have I got to share with you? Okay, so I won a giveaway. Another one. I won it actually. I think I got it in I won it in the same week as I won the giveaway on Twin Aura Knits, which I shared with you last time. But this other prize, it took the long way around to get to me. It's a very well travelled, gift giveaway prize, and this is from Sally Journey, who is Jackie from Caddy Jack's Knits. Her mum makes these most beautiful quilts, and these are the most gorgeous hexies, and they have the most fabulous story behind them. And I'm going to leave a link in the description box so that you can go and check out Sally talking all about this particular project and why it's so incredibly special. But what I will tell you is that each one of these is numbered. So I have number 100 up here. The backs are so lovely too. So this has been hanging up in my bedroom since it arrived. It went from the US to Tokyo, and then round to me. So it really did take the long way round, but it did finally arrive, and oh my goodness, it was absolutely worth it. So these are well travelled. Lily and Sally from, you sometimes see them as guests on Caddy Jack's podcast. They talk about these little hexies as wee souls. So these wee souls are well travelled, but here they are. They've found their home now, and I'm very grateful that I get to enjoy these, because oh my goodness, aren't they just lovely? So there we go. That was another really lovely, exciting package that arrived in the post, and I've got Mohair now. What else do I have for you? Oh, I'm actually mentioning 2 Caddy Jack's episodes. One was for Mother's Day, and you can see Sally teaching Jackie how to bake bread, and I really enjoyed that episode. It's just so lovely to spend time in their company, and I think you'll really like that. And then just this week we had an extra special bonus episode where Caitlin introduces us to her mum, who's Cynthia Whitney Ward, who is an artist, and that was just a complete delight as well. So it's so lovely to meet these amazing women with their wisdom and their creativity and their compassion, and I think you'll really enjoy getting to know them a little bit better too. I was also going to mention I've been enjoying Andrea Mowry's podcast on YouTube. It started off as a Q&A for her CAL, her March to May CAL, but she's decided to continue on because I think she gets so many questions, and I think she's calling it I'll Knit If I Want To, and it comes out every Friday, and it's just about 20 minutes to 30 minutes long, and she basically answers maybe 3 to 4 questions from her audience, and they are pretty technical but also creative too. So I think if you are exploring knitting and you're always wanting to find out the best ways of doing something, or a new way of doing something even, then that's a really good podcast to go check out. Okay, next thing. We watched a great film on Netflix. It was so much fun. It was called Love and Monsters, and it wasn't a very long movie. I'm so used to watching TV series, that go on and on and on and on for hours and hours and hours, that actually watching a movie that was more contained than that. And and really an example of good, tight storytelling. It kind of surprised as well, it subverted some expectations. The special effects were very good. It was, even although obviously it does have monsters in it, it wasn't gory. And just generally I really enjoyed it. It was a really good fun movie to watch last weekend. Something else that I watched on YouTube was a TED Talk, and my dad actually introduced me to this last week, and it's by a woman called Valerie Kerr, and her TED Talk was called 3 Lessons of Revolutionary Love in a Time of Rage. And it is possibly one of the most exquisite and moving TED Talks that I have seen, certainly in a very long time. She has such a miraculous way of weaving together a story and delivering a message with deep intention, and she does it with her whole body. So her hand movements, her posture, like everything about her is communicating the story to you, and I just found it incredibly powerful. What a remarkable woman. And I think you'll really like it. It's about 15 minutes long, I think. Anyway, check it out. You absolutely won't regret it. Okay, my loves, well that's us at an hour. We've gone through lots and lots and lots of knitting. I'm absolutely surrounded with it all now. But before I go, I was going to read you one of my favourite poems, because I thought if we're going to end on a recommendation for a TED Talk about love, then I wanted to read you a poem about love. And this is from the Nation's Favourite Love Poems anthology. And this poem is by Auden, W.H. Auden, and the poem's called Oh Tell Me the Truth About Love. Some say that love's a little boy, and some say it's a bird. Some say it makes the world go round, and some say that's absurd. And when I asked the man next door, who looked as if he knew, his wife got very cross indeed, and said it wouldn't do. Does it look like a pair of pyjamas, or the ham in a temperance hotel? Does its odour remind one of llamas, or has it a comforting smell? Is it prickly to touch as a hedge is, or soft as eiderdown fluff? Is it sharp or quite smooth at the edges? Oh, tell me the truth about love. Our history books refer to it in cryptic little notes. It's quite a common topic on the transatlantic boats. I've found the subject mentioned in accounts of suicides, and even seen it scribbled on the back of railway guides. Does it howl like a hungry Alsatian, or boom like a military band? Could one give a first-rate imitation on a saw or a Steinway grand? Is it singing at party a riot? Does it only like classical stuff? Will it stop when one wants to be quiet? Oh, tell me the truth about love. I looked inside the summer house. It wasn't ever there. I tried the Thames at Maidenhead or Brighton's bracing air. I don't know what the blackbird sang or what the tulip said, but it wasn't in the chicken run or underneath the bed. Can it pull extraordinary faces? Is it usually sick on a swing? Does it spend all its time at the races or fiddling with pieces of string? Has it views of its own about money? Does it think patriotism's enough? Are its stories vulgar but funny? Oh, tell me the truth about love. When it comes, will it come without warning, just as I'm picking my nose? Will it knock on my door in the morning, or tread in the bus on my toes? Will it come like a change in the weather? Will its greeting be courteous or rough? Will it alter my life altogether? Oh, tell me the truth about love. Well, my loves, I hope that you find love everywhere you look, and that where you find it you feel well met. And in the meantime, I will speak to you soon, and take good care.